talking about ways to care for other people. But the question is, how do you actually give yourself? I mean, how do you offer your presence to somebody else? A few years ago, I visited Mother Teresa's Home for the Dying in Calcutta, India. And I have to be honest and say that I went with feeling pretty good about myself, feeling like I'm doing something that most people don't do, and I was mentally, giving myself some pats on the back for, being a nice person. And so I asked, so what am I supposed to do? Because I could see this flurry of activity of people moving, women over here, people, there were beds, there were just this movement. And one of the sisters ran by me and she said, well, just do what everybody else is doing. So we bathed women, and then I saw that we were going to give them breakfast, and they had 10 plates with a little bit of banana, a little bit of tea, and something, and yet some of these women were so close to death that to put food in their mouths, it either came right back up or they were just too ill and they couldn't, and it just sloshed all over them. And pretty soon my stomach started to churn, because there were sights I was seeing that I'd never seen. I'd never been around 50 people dying all at once. I had never been around a place where I could hear screaming from the men's side, just horrible screams, because they were only separated by just a little thin wall. So I'm hearing screaming out of one side of me. The other side of me is watching women dying, watching people regurgitate their food, watching people with open sores, and it just didn't take long before I started getting a little sick to my stomach. And I went over to this corner of this big room where I could kind of get away by myself, because my stomach, I was ready to throw up myself. Everything was just getting to me. And I was thinking, this was really stupid. This was a really bad decision to come here. I don't know why you thought you could come here. So I sat over in this corner, and then this nun found me, this sister found me. And I wasn't raised Catholic, but I found from my Catholic friends that somehow the sisters always find you. And she found me, and she said she was not going to let me just sit. So she brought me this stack of newspapers and showed me very quickly how to fold them to make these little packets that when they took off a soiled dressing off of a woman, they could put it in this little piece of newspaper, because there weren't trash cans. So I'm sitting in the corner folding newspaper to make these little paper envelopes to hold these soiled dressings. And as I sat there for a few minutes, kind of calming down, getting, my equilibrium back, I raised my eyes and I started looking around the room. That was my mistake, because when I raised my eyes, I made eye contact with a woman sitting on a bed. And I put my eyes back down really fast because I was hoping she wouldn't see me. And then I kind of lifted them up again, and she was looking right at me. And this time she kind of motioned to me, and I'm like, But she's like, come on. So I was like, why did I do that? Why did I make eye contact? So I put down my newspaper, and I walked over, and I sat down next to her on the bed. And the minute I sat down next to her on the bed, she began to sob uncontrollably and speak. She was just talking as fast as she could. And I panicked, because I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what she's saying. What is this woman telling me? I don't speak Bengali. I barely speak English. What am I supposed to do? And really quickly, though, I realized that I knew exactly what she was telling me. I knew exactly. She was telling me how she ended up in Mother Teresa's Home for the Dying. She was pouring out her story to me of how her family had left her. Either they couldn't take care of her or they had abandoned her, how she'd been found in a gutter, how she'd been brought to Mother Teresa's, how she was in pain, how she was afraid. She was pouring her life out to me. And so I put my arms around her, and I tried to draw her as close to me as I could. And I looked her right in the face, and I said to her, I am so sorry that you hurt. I am so sorry that you're going through this, and that this is where you found yourself. I'm so sorry that your family wasn't here for you. And I began to take my hands and touch her face and wipe away the tears from her face. And as I did, I said to her, these hands that are wiping your tears away, these are the hands of Jesus. And my arms that are around you, these are Jesus' arms. He loves you. You matter to him. You have not been forgotten. And as I sat there with my arms around her, part of me wanted to say to her, there's going to be enough medication. Somehow there's going to be enough medication that will get you through your dying. I wanted to be able to tell her that her family was going to be waiting for her, that somehow she was going to recover, and that her family was going to be waiting for her on the other side of those doors. I wanted to be able to tell her that I could fix it for her. But the reality was, I couldn't do any of those things. I couldn't promise her that there'd be enough medication. I couldn't promise her that her family would be there waiting for her. I couldn't promise her that her dying would be easy. The only thing I could give to her was I gave myself. I gave her the one thing that I had in my power to give. I gave her my presence. I sat next to her. My arms were around her. My hands were touching her. My tears were mingled with her tears. And in that way, she knew how much she mattered. She knew that she was valuable. If you've ever gone through a really hard time, and I imagine you have at some point in your life, I'd be willing to bet that you don't really remember those people who organized life for you. You probably don't remember those people who came up with a great game plan of how you should move forward through this hard time. I have a feeling you probably remember the people who just sat with you, the people who got up close to you, the people who put their arms around you, the people who were willing to just be with you. That's what it means to give your presence.